Hello everyone, welcome back to Gelvin Valley made by Wild Wild West. We are in Farming Simulator 15. Still enjoying this old game and an old map at this point. Gelvin Valley was in 2 versions of Farming Sim. I don't think it was ever ported to any other. Farm Sim 13, which is where I was introduced to it. And then Farm Sim 15. Still love the map. Anyway, we are in the process of picking up our bales and trying to make headway to finish the harvest. We've had a number of loads hauling these in, and I've been dutifully trying to keep notes to see how much we're making on the bales, as it's been noted that there's probably a better purpose for the bales. And at some point when we have cattle in here, at some point I'd like to have that, or anything that uses straw. Maybe there's even hogs in here, I don't recall. Then these bales could definitely be put to better purpose. Whoops, I think we are full, so time to spray. We'll turn that part off so we don't hurt our eyes. Head off to market. Well, the past couple videos, I think this one being the 4th, I've spent time talking about the first summer job that I ever had, working for an uncle of mine who now has a farm of turf and nursery, but in the former days he had strawberries and he dabbled a little with grass seed and some of those other things. You know what? I think I can sneak out through. Except I gotta hit the door just right. Bumpier than all get out. Then I can head up this dirt field. The farmer that owns it is fine with us kind of bypassing the tree here and going out the main entrance. So we will. And since we I bet that guy's cussing me out for pulling in front of him like I just did. But that's okay. So I've been especially talking about the fine art of irrigation, sort of how we did it back in the day, and some of the creativity my uncle had, whether it was finding the water, finding a source of it that wasn't being used, that he could procure the rights to it. And you know, I mentioned that he had taken some water out of a fairly minor stream. I know at a particular time of year when it was full, taking the winter runoff, early spring is when it tended to be full and running. And, a part of me still wonders if he still has rights to it, and he may. Water rights are one of those things you don't want to just give up easily. If there's something you need to do to maintain them, because, if you still have the property, and he probably doesn't anymore on this particular one, because he no longer farms the property that was adjacent to it, and now it's no longer purposed towards agriculture, so there really wouldn't be any purpose in keeping the water rights in that particular location, so I'm pretty sure he doesn't. But it isn't something you just give up easily. Alright, record another load. And boom, here we go. You can hear the din of an auction in the background still as animals are being sold. Here we go, back to down the hill. So I'm trying to recall if there's any other stories that I had on irrigation. There's probably so many I've just simply forgotten or that will come to mind later, of course, after this episode's been recorded and it's done. But that's just kind of how it is. Yeah, I think last time I spent time talking about the surface area of the nozzle for how long to have the water on and the geometry lesson. Um, Pipe hauling. Nowadays, I don't know how they do it. Right? Well, they still got the same system. You know, if you're going to have lateral pipe in a field, you basically carry them on a truck or trailer that is long enough to hold them in it. I mean, that just makes sense. But I realize there's all sorts of other types of irrigation, you know, where you can, like big wheel lines, you can roll them up. They consist of big hoses. And, you know, some of it is kind of in the spirit of a DLC that the Giants put out for Farming Simulator 22, called something and hoses, pipes and hoses. I don't remember what it was called, but there, and I haven't used it personally, but I've seen it. You know, my friend Russell, I think, showed me how to use it, or kind of what it consisted of. And you know what's kind of similar with irrigation? Some systems are set up so that the line will wheel in, pull towards something, you know, like a big old gun sprinkler, and in the meanwhile, it's throwing a lot of water off. You know, and those can be fairly compact. You know, and then there's wheel lines, which is the same as lateral lines, but they have a big old wheel kind of in the middle of it, you know, which makes it easy to move pipe kind of in the field. The trouble is it's kind of brutal to haul them things, and, you know, never having personally used them, maybe there's ways to take them down for purposes of transport. You know, maybe they take the wheel off in the middle. Going too fast, eh? Probably because I'm going downhill. Yeah, whatever. Okay, now it's back on. I think one more bale. Is that what I see here? And it's now on. I'm looking over 37. Yeah, I think we're done. Let's head to field number 8. And we'll get her picked up. Across the way, we can see our largest field. That'll be field number 18. All the bales gone out of it. We're going to have ourselves a piece of work here coming up soon with our fall tillage. You know, and in the past, I've always done that with just my existing tractor, and a part of me wonders if I should be just like I'm doing now, if I should, because I still can't afford it. Even with the money I have in the bank, I still can't afford larger machinery just yet. So I still have a loan to pay off. So, oh, I get that down to one bale? Looks like I did. Alright, well, we'll have to come back for it. One bale, unless I just shoved it out of the way here and left it for when we have cattle in here. So, and of course, I just probably forgot what I was talking about. I'm sure it was about irrigation. Go down through. I love the way Wes has it set up, forcing you to drive through the river. It brings back memories when I worked on Lone Oak. They have some property down in, I guess for lack of a better term, you could call it the Pudding River Canyon. Pudding River is not a major river by any stretch of the imagination, but a somewhat sizable tributary to the Willamette River, which is a major river that goes the length of the Willamette Valley. And this river happens to run right through my uncle's property on Lone Oak, and right through, they got some pasture land, you know, through which this river runs. And so anytime we went down in their canyon, as we called it, down in the canyon to go check the cows or feed them or do whatever, we had to ford the Pudding River. So basically the road, you drove right through it, through the water, up to the other side, which is where they had the buildings, you know, that housed the cattle and had the hay and everything in it. In later years, I know they constructed a bridge over it, so I don't think they go through the water anymore. Probably for the best. And for all I know, surely it isn't illegal to drive a car through a. Who knows? The way this state is, maybe it is illegal. Yeah, and it makes me wonder who has the water rights on the Pudding River, by the way. You know, and water rights on a river, by the way, are a ticklish thing. Even though there is plenty of water maybe where you are, doesn't mean that you have the right to take the water out, because of course it's flowing downstream and someone else may already have the right to it. And if you were to take it out of the river, you know, you're removing it from the one who technically owns it. Another bale sale. You know, I seem to recall I was quite a bit in the hole before I started this, and I almost wonder if I've cleared 100 grand with all these loads of bales. Yeah, well, I'm taking notes. We'll see what the tally is when I get done. So I don't know who has the rights on that particular river, but I do know my uncles don't have it. They've never irrigated anything out of there, nor if they ever really wanted to, based on the crops, you know, that they've had that are nearby. But I know the cattle don't care who owns the water rights. I mean, that's their water source, so they're down in there drinking it up and everything. I don't imagine you need to have water rights just to feed your animals, but maybe you do. Who knows? Let me see, anything more on... Oh yes, pipe hauling. I was talking about pipe traders. I guess the memory I have about those is, you know, it wasn't too bad stacking them on the trailer and we'd haul them to another field where they could get used. There was a lot of movement. All I remember is you had to be very careful when you were pulling the pipe trailer, because they were long and pipes hung way out the back, so you were longer than you knew you were. And when you pulled out onto the road, you know, it wasn't uncommon to catch other cars unaware. So you usually had to give people a lot more space, or so we attempted. But I know there was a lot of, you pull out in front of them, there's all these pipes jangling in front of them, you know, in this trailer. I think it was kind of unnerving. And, you know, come to think of it, I don't think we strapped any of them pipes down either. I think they were fair. We never lost one off a trailer that I recall. But, you know, it was just something we had to be careful with. Alright, field number 8 is done. Maybe in this episode we will complete the bales. Let's see, we got 2 more fields, 1 and 2. We'll go to 1 first. Probably have enough room on the trailer. Yeah, we're gonna have to come back at least once. And at this field here on the right. So we'll try to take care of number 1. I think we probably have enough room to get all of them on in this field. Maybe. We'll see. Ooh, that was close. That was either expert driving or just pure dumb luck. And yeah, I'm going with the latter. Once again, I do not know what turned the faucet on all my streams in here, but something sure did. I don't know. Hold on a second. We got some weather? No, we don't. Not till Thursday, I guess. 4 days, we got some hail coming. I just don't remember any rain that came through here, you know, that would be causing the stream. So, yeah. Who knows? Who knows? This is a corner I really need to fix because the combine keeps enjoying the fence for some unknown diabolical reason. A couple more bales, 4 of them. We'll have the field done, and we'll be on to the last one, number 2. We're going to get her done before this episode is complete, which is nice. So we'll be on to some other things and have to figure out how we're going to spend. Yeah, see, no skill here. Just luck if I can get by the fences. Yeah, this one here, I'm probably going to have a dickens of a time getting into the field. Maybe we'll see what angle I gotta be at. Just don't know if I can. Oh shoot, I'm on the wrong spot. If I hug, great demand for potatoes. Well, great demand for things I don't got. Maybe I can make that turn. I don't know that I can come out the same way though. Come on, get through that door. There we go. Can I sneak up alongside? Alright, we made it. Just barely. Wes made most of the entrances tight on this particular map. More bales. Yeah, maybe one more load after this. Maybe I can get this and one more, hopefully. But we shall see. We shall see. Alright, maybe I can make it out. Maybe I can't. You know, another thing that comes to mind with the irrigation, I know I touched on this a little as I was mentioning the mushroom plant, you know, where my uncle had leased some property. There was like an invisible collision there or something. Yeah, we made it out. Good. And that is how the technique we used to clean nozzles when we started it up. Most of the time, when you were in clean water, pumping straight out of a standard underground water pump or what have you, the water was clean, and it was only if you got some dirt or some other kind of corruption in the pipe, you know, while you were moving it, or, you know, if the pipe were fresh off of winter storage, and you didn't know what was in there. Sometimes mice would crawl in there, or bugs, and, you know, make a nest, or maybe some rodent or whatever. And then you start running water. Of course, you can't always see what's in the pipe. You know, maybe you could if you took time to tip all of them up and put them to daylight, but you couldn't always see what was in there. So sometimes you discovered what was in there when you turned the water on. And so then it was a matter of what do we need to do to unclog it? Because, you know, invariably you'd get the water going, it would all get up to pressure, and then voila, you saw all the sprinklers going in the line. And so then the next duty was to make sure that each sprinkler had a full stream of water coming off of it, that it was turning properly, and so forth. And if there was some blockage, you know, which doesn't take much, you know, you remember it's only a few 30 seconds in width. Even under high pressure, it doesn't take much to block it, depending on what it is. You know, so my brother and I, we had these flags. That's what they were. I mean, they would have a strip of color on one end. They could be used for multiple purpose, but we used them for the wire end. That's basically what they were, as wire. And so if something was obstructing the stream of water, you know, we would take our makeshift flags or what have you and go poke it in the nozzle hole until we got it free. And if we couldn't get it free, this is something I started to share in another video. You know, we had a number of choices, and it depended on how bad the blockage seemed. You know, something that you had to be really, really good at is unclogging a nozzle when it was under pressure if the obstruction wouldn't fit through the hole in the nozzle. And so when those kinds of things would happen, you know, you could remove the nozzle. And the nozzle, even though the hole in it was a few 30 seconds in diameter, you could remove the nozzle with, oh, I think a half an inch end wrench. Maybe it was 5/8. And again, I don't know what the equivalent is in metric. Half an inch is maybe a centimeter, give or take a little. But when the line was under pressure, you didn't want to just remove the nozzle with, a small little crescent wrench, because as soon as it was loose, well, shoot, I mean, the pressure would just blow it somewhere out into the dirt, and you'd lose your nozzle, and then you'd have to go get a new one. And in the meantime, water would be spewing out at much higher velocity all over the place, while the overall pressure was lessened in the line. You could do it with a tool that was called a vice grip, where if you had firm grasp of it and you could turn it around using that. It was a little cumbersome, but as long as you had a firm hold of it, you could untwist it and remove it and take it off even under pressure while keeping your nozzle. The real trick was putting it back on under pressure. And I don't know that I ever did it more than a couple times, because it was too hard and was very frustrating to do it, because you're basically getting a bath the entire time you're doing it. You're trying to force it onto this nozzle that is spewing high pressure water coming out, and trying to do it with enough force to find the threads, on the nozzle so that you can put it back on. Very hard to do under pressure. Occasionally, the entire sprinkler head would be blocked, and it had something in it that even couldn't come out the nozzle hole. So in those cases, you could remove the entire sprinkler head off of the pipe, even under pressure. And so you'd have an even larger geyser coming off, and you did whatever you had to do to clear out whatever obstruction was in the sprinkler head. But then you had the problem of, again, putting the sprinkler head back on while the pipe was under pressure. And of course, I keep saying you have to. Well, you didn't really have to. But you know what? It was maybe 600, 700, 1,000 yards over to where the pump was. And in those days, we didn't have an ATV or a four-wheeler of some kind. We didn't have a way to just zip over there, so we had to do it on foot. So that was either running, walking, or whatever. Well, it could take a long time to go over there to turn the pump off. Then you got to walk all the way back, just to take care of this problem. And maybe that's the right way to do it. But so we would always attempt to do it under load. And I think our uncle was okay with it. I mean, we watched him do it a number of times. Oh, we're not going to be able to finish this field. Shoot. Oh, well. All right. Another load ready. Another load to take to market. So we haul in the bales. But you could take the head off. You could do it the out way. And occasionally you would discover something so big in the pipe, that it couldn't even go up the stem, to reach the sprinkler. And usually you would discover this in pieces. Off would come the nozzle, and you discover, well, that ain't it. Nothing's coming out, and I can't poke anything around. Then off would come the sprinkler head, and maybe it's just a little burp or whatever. But then eventually you realize you couldn't get that obstruction clear, so there was something fundamentally large in the pipe that you had to deal with. Well, so then you had to basically physically pull the pipes apart and let the water flush out the end, whatever was in there. And for those, many times you had no choice, but to go to the pump and turn it off, because it's just too much water. And inevitably, the pipe that got blocked would be one, say, in the middle, and you wouldn't want to have to take apart the entire line under pressure, to undo it. But most of the time when we had a whole pipe obstruction, it was at the end pipe. And the procedure we always followed there was to pull the plug out of the end, and you could generally get the plug out. But I don't know that we were ever able to put the plug in while it was under load. If you got a 3-inch pipe, the amount of force that it takes to put it on there, and you're getting baptized the whole time with a whole bunch of water. It just was unproductive to try to shove that on. You were just getting totally hosed off. So what we did instead is we would take off the whole end pipe. 2 of us would usually work together. We'd put the plug in on the pipe. Well, we'd empty it first, then we'd put the plug in. And then we would insert the pipe into the line. Meanwhile, water is just bailing out the end. But that way you had a whole length of pipe for the water to fill before it ran into blockage. So that a lot of times was fairly handy, that particular technique, just to be able to do it under load. But there was a few times we of course had to trudge clear over to the pump. There was just too many problems to take care of with everything under load. And if there were too many obstructions, you did run the potential of burning the pump up. If the water wasn't able to go out for whatever reason, and it just built up pressure, you could end up burning up your pump. So you didn't want to do that either. There's always kind of a fine line in there. It's all well and good to do this on good water. And, my uncle had a lot of good water, even water that came out of a stream, of a small creek or whatever, like I described earlier. That's decent water. The water where it totally sucked having to do this was the mushroom plant water, out of the settling pond. All this dirty water that came off of their production process of mushrooms, it smelled like manure. And it got on your skin, it would stain it, and it would stick with you. Even though you showered it off, you could still kind of smell the remnant of it. It kind of reminds me of being around pigs. Anybody that's been around pigs, they have a very distinctive odor in their manure. And you can always tell someone who farms pigs, it's virtually impossible, to get that smell off of you, even if you shower. There's just something, that sticks to you. So, I didn't turn soon enough. I think we have just 3 more bales in there to grab, and then we'll haul this puppy back to the store. Oh, come on. Let me in, please. Yeah, we're scraping the fence post, but we'll get in. We'll get the job done. For some reason, it seems easier to exit the field than it does to enter it. Not sure why. So we did all that same stuff down at the mushroom plant fields that my uncle had, but it just was a whole lot more unpleasant having to unplug pipes and sprinklers and things, with that dirty water. And I mentioned, I think in an earlier video, for some reason, the mushroom plant water seemed to have more crud in it, and I really don't know why that is. It just did. So we had a lot more work, in the field, cleaning out obstructions. So I know that particularly stands out as a memory to me, dealing with that filthy water. Hi, George, there is something in there, and I don't know what it is that is stopping us, but anyway. Maybe one other thing, I'm just kind of looking at my side notes here as I think back and reflect on this. There was one incident of irrigation that basically took down a farm lease that my uncle had. I mentioned, I think in the last video, kind of commenting on my uncle's creativity as a farmer, trying to get water to a field where there was a road kind of running in between the properties. And you of course couldn't lay pipe just across the road. So he chose to put the pipe under a culvert to get it over there. So that was all well and good. This land, it was I don't know how many acres, but it surrounded a radio tower for a local radio station, and it was just unused property. And I think my uncle went to him and said, "Hey, I'll clear all the briars and the grimy stuff off of here, if I can farm some." Yeah, I think he put strawberries in there as well. And I don't know how long he had it over there, but of course, like all the rest of his strawberry fields, he irrigated it. And that's kind of where the problem happened. Yeah, there was a hut kind of in the middle of the field. I think it was made out of stone masonry or what have you. And just a small little thing, and then somewhere beside it, inside it, whatever, there was the large antenna that went way up into the sky. Well, one night when it was irrigating, the pipes went right alongside. Let's write down +3 bales. The pipes went right alongside the little building, and the way the water pipe was angled, somehow it got on an angle, and it was shooting water up into the eaves, right under the roof. Most buildings are constructed where the roof line goes outside of the walls. That's for good reason, to keep rainwater particularly, off of the walls and take it kind of away from the building. It helps keep everything inside dry. Well, water was shooting up inside, and so the water was streaming inside of this building, and apparently there was a whole lot of electrical equipment up in there, or inside the building, and it took down the radio station. And I think it took a while to figure out why the radio station literally went off the air. I don't know if it's 24 hours, several days, or whatever it was, but eventually they figured out that the irrigation was the culprit around the building. And in the meantime, those radio stations, they exist on advertising dollars and everything, and so there was all this lost advertising revenue. And I don't know that they ever billed it to my uncle. I mean, who would have ever guessed, that this kind of a problem would have been caused? All I know is at some point the lease was terminated, and I know for sure now my uncle nobody, not just my uncle, nobody farms in there anymore. And for a while, there was a lot of briars and everything that came and took the place over. You could barely get in there. So my uncle did have some improvements while he was there, but it was just too much, when the water was doing damage to their equipment. So that was kind of a funny thing that happened, although I know the radio station wasn't laughing, and I'd have to ask my uncle again. I don't know if they terminated the lease on the spot. I don't know if they had to wait, tough it out a few years. They may have told him, hey, you can lease the ground, but you can no longer irrigate, whereupon my uncle would have said, he couldn't farm that in there if he wasn't allowed to irrigate. So I don't know the end of the story on all that. I just remember the damage happening. Oh boy, I got 11 minutes to get this here fence back. So, but you know what? The bell has already rang. So thank you so much for listening to me dribble along here on just reminiscing on old memories while playing on this fine map. So y'all have a wonderful day. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.